everyone, to another episode of the HR and Payroll 2.0 podcast. I'm Pete Tiliakis, and as always, I'm joined by the legendary Julie Fernandez. Welcome, Julie.
Thanks so much, Pete. I know we have an exciting kind of a current events episode today, so why don't you tell us about it?
Yeah. We got our good friends from Willory. We've got John Bernatovicz, and we've got Tammy Gillenwater, and they are here with the new Payroll Like a Boss book. And so I'm stoked for the sneak peek. I got a million questions. I've seen a little bit of it, and I'm excited to read it. But welcome, guys. Great to have you.
Very exciting to be here.
What a delight.
Congrats.
And thank you, Pete and Julie, for what you're doing for the payroll industry and elevating the profession. I know Tammy and I are trying to ride in your coattails, and I think what they call that drafting. You're driving that lead car, and we're just trying to draft behind you to keep up with you. Maybe we'll pass you like in 5 or 10 years. Who knows?
I hope you do, man. I hope you do. We were talking about this before we got started about how back 10 years ago when I started being an analyst and I started sort of being an influencer, if you will. I don't consider myself that for payroll. It was just me. There wasn't anybody else out there doing anything about it. And it's nice to have help and have others out there. So I appreciate what y'all are doing. I wish we had those sound effects, Julie. I don't remember how you do it, where it's like that horn, like dah, dah, dah.
Yeah.
And we get some fireworks or whatever. But like, it's finally here, Tammy. It's finally here.
Well, I can see why we
is.
don't have sounds, Pete, because you were going to do that. And when you said, like it's flying in the coattails, I would have done duck noises, John. And
Okay.
just, had a flock of ducks or something.
No, I would have honked the horn as we passed you by, kind of like Ricky Bobby. If you
See
ain't
you
first,
later.
you're last, Julie. If you ain't first, you're last.
We're going to turn into some wacky morning show.
Yeah.
Anyway, Tammy, I'm so excited.
Yes.
I want you to talk about this book, but how do you feel that this is now? It's here, right? It's here. Do you believe it? Are you relieved? What are you feeling?
There's a lot of feelings, and I kind of go back and forth. Like 1 minute I'm like it's not real and everything is usual, and then I'll read something or I'll see something. Like last night John and I signed all those books, and then I came home and saw it on the Amazon listing, and I was like, whoa, look at this. So yeah, and it makes me a little emotional, and even like when I read certain parts of it, it is very emotional to me. So roller coaster.
A little bit of therapy writing. I'm writing a book myself, and it is a little bit of therapy when you're doing that.
Mhm.
But
I saw the picture,
Yeah.
Tammy, and I know your right arm is probably about ready to fall off, right? I mean, you were just in
I'm
front
good,
of this
actually.
mountain, this big mountain of books that you guys have gotten signed, ready for the launch here. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, we asked someone there. We were at one of the local wineries because I live in Ohio wine country, and we asked somebody to take the picture for us, and she's retired from payroll.
Oh, that's fun.
Wow.
Surprise.
I know, isn't that weird?
John, man, I want to get your perspective, man. This is your second one. HR. This is basically part 2, I guess, to HR Like a Boss, the sequel. What's it like going through it again, man? What'd you do differently? What'd you learn?
There's a few things. The most obvious one is the joy and pleasure to have partnered with Tammy to write the book. Tammy and I have been fast friends for probably 15 plus years, and having been able to work together now at the firm and supporting our clients and just getting to know each other on a professional level. And then as a result, on a personal level, I feel super blessed to call her a friend and thankful for her wisdom and kindness. And although we were on a recent call preparing a webinar, and she was really giving me a hard time in front of people that were like, why is she being that way to you, John? I'm like, that's how we are, like little sibling rivalry. The first thing is obvious with Tammy. I'd say the second time you kind of know what to expect the second time around, Pete and Julie. And I don't know whether that's good or bad. I don't know whether that's good or bad. There's a lot of comparison to the book that I wrote that got published by Sherm that had a lot of really cool parts of it and also had some things I would like to see done differently. We went with a hybrid publisher this time around because we wanted to take a little bit more advantage of the content we created, be a little bit more in control of it from a sense of that. And I wanted to get the experience, quite frankly, because there's 3 ways you can write a book. You can publish through a standard publisher, you can hybrid publish, or you can self-publish. And we wanted to see what that was like. Again, similar thing. There were a lot of cool things about it. The publisher that we hired was really good in some ways. And in other places, it's like, gosh, in the back of my mind, it makes me want to start a publishing business, which makes me a complete weirdo. I know, like get off your lawn kind of entrepreneur guy. And then the last thing I would say, and I feel like I'm comparing kids, which is dangerous. I know. I mean, can we really do this?
Yep.
I'm going to suggest this. And you use the word influencer, thought leader. I've been blessed over the last few years to really get to know some fantastic people, including said company. But in the HR space, pairing that with the HR Like a Boss movement that came out of the book that I wrote in 23, there's a lot of competition. There's a lot of people
Oh,
out
yeah.
there advocating, selling, supporting work, talent, HR, benefits, fill in the blank. And I have not gotten out of payroll. I've been doing this for now 30 years in my entire career. But I would say this is the first time I've leaned into being someone that's creating content specifically for payroll and doing these presentations. And I will tell you right now, the support from the payroll community has been absolutely inspiring. I
Yep.
mean,
It's the
not
best,
that we
right?
didn't get support from HR, we have, but this feels a little bit more golden goose-ish. It feels a little bit more like this is really something that you're doing. The celebration amongst some people that might think you're competition, like you, Pete,
Yeah.
and Julie, and others that we've run into, Ian Giles, and the folks that do all the other podcasting. They just want us on the show. They want us promoting. It's one
Mhm.
big happy family.
Yeah.
And I would say
Yeah.
that that's the biggest part because I will say in HR Like a Boss, as you may know, Pete and Julie, when you do something like that, you get a lot of people that give you some props and maybe it's some undue respect. But at the same time, you get some people that try to knock you off that heightened pinnacle that you've
Yeah.
reached. And I've not had that 1 second in payroll, not one
That's
second. I
awesome.
want people, they're
Yeah.
pushing me to go climb another mountain, which
Yeah.
is the
It's
most
very
amazing
on
part.
brand.
So those three things really stand out to me from this being different than HR Like a Boss.
Yeah.
From my perspective, I wasn't surprised about all the support. Like,
Yep.
I see it all the time. So, yeah, it's an awesome community.
I love it. And just for those scoring at home, John is the author of HR Like a Boss, which we had John on. If you haven't listened to that episode, I encourage you to go back and check it out. And John, we're going to make sure the links to that and the new book are in our description. But I'm really proud of you guys. I know. Look, I've been trying to write a book now for over a year. It takes it's like a part-time job, and it's tough. But I love the way that the payroll community rallies around each other. I think the HR community does just as well too, but not quite like payroll. And it's great to see everybody, rising tides raise all boats. So love seeing you guys get the support and love for that.
We're trying to elevate payroll, and they're not used to that attention.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
they're going to rally around it.
I would agree. I feel that way about the Payroll Profession Confidence Index. The practitioners have really leaned into it. And we're just trying to get it in more hands. But look, I love a good origin story. Tammy, how on earth did this book come about? Like, where did it come from? What's the earliest origin of this?
Yeah, so I probably wasn't the best payroll professional for a really long time. I think I majored in 10 different things in college, took me forever to graduate. I finally got my degree in HR. I thought that's where I was going.
Yeah, same.
And, I was one of those bad people that just didn't have the right mindset about payroll. I mean, I'll admit it. It was just a job for me. But as luck would have it, we kept getting more and more payroll projects to work on. And everyone knew that was my area of expertise because even if I was kind of faking it, like, yeah, payroll's my job, I still wanted to do a good job. As I started to get more involved, like payroll and I just kept gravitating towards each other. And the more I got involved and the more I saw out there, I was seeing a lot of the same things. I would go in and do an assessment and I would make a recommendation, and their payroll resource would say, yeah, good luck. I already told them that. And there was a lot of just tension, and nobody was being developed as a
Hmm.
payroll professional. I would recommend involvement in, payroll organizations and certification, and nobody was taking me seriously about it. Okay, number one, I need to start working on my influence skills, but it just really disheartened me. And John had written HR Like a Boss, and when I was reading it, I I think I have it here. This is interesting. All these tabs. I said, that's relevant to payroll too. What the heck?
Yep.
And so I had been starting to meditate because I had a lot going on in my life, and I started having these revelations about payroll, and it was bothering me a lot. And I started reaching out and I started expanding my network outside of Ohio, and I started seeing and hearing a lot of the same things. And so one day when I was, meditating, I came out of it and I thought, I need to do something about this. What can I do? And so John and I talked, and I said, we just really need to do something to get this message out.
Yeah.
And so that's how it came to be.
Tammy left out the one part, Pete and Julie, where in one of these epiphanies she had after this meditation, she sends me a text, "We need to talk." Anybody ever gotten something like that from somebody you care about that you work with that you don't want to
Yep,
quit?
yep. Tammy's
Yeah.
quitting.
Yep,
Yeah.
Tammy
Oh,
made my
shit.
heart stop for about 5 seconds. And luckily, it was just
Uh,
Tammy having a thought and needing to getting it out and was like, "We need to talk." And it was about the idea of her becoming more involved as a content creator. Again, I hate the phrasing influencer, thought leader, but
yeah,
just wanting to get her ideas and her impressions out there. And then that led to her having the idea of writing a book, and then me providing some counsel to her. And then that turned into, "Hey, can you help me co-write the book? And oh, by the way, let's call it Payroll Like a Boss." I
yeah,
think her influence skills are just fine, to be honest with you. We wouldn't be
yeah,
here right now if it wasn't for that.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, she's killing it,
Yeah, and it
crushing it.
also too, I saw the impact of HR Like a Boss on the community inside of human
Yeah.
resources and the advocation for it, and a
Yeah.
profession that gets relegated into similar quandaries and not so great places as payroll professionals do. And I just thought it was awesome, and to have a partner like Tammy that would bring that technical expertise in payroll. Trust me, I can do a payroll, but you probably don't want me to do a very large payroll and one that has complexities. But I can bring the business ownership, the acumen side of it, which is the foundational principle of
Yep.
Payroll Like a Boss, your guide to strategic payroll. It's about being a business leader first. It just so happens to practice in the field of payroll. And
Yep.
what does all that mean? We try to outline all
Yeah.
that. And the other really cool part, and I know this may be like complete brown nosing because we're on your show. I know, Pete, you and I have talked about this a number of times. I know both you and Julie had me on this show, what feels like about a year ago.
I was
Yeah.
And
11
you were
months.
just so positive, so supportive. And when we asked you, Pete, to write the forward, there was zero hesitation. I don't even think
Yeah.
the
Oh, yeah.
email had gotten, like, it hadn't even landed yet. And you said, "Yes, what do you need me to do?" And the forward
Yep.
you wrote was just a great springboard to the book. The cool part about right now is as we're launching the book, came out April 28th. We have the ebook for sale all the way through Payroll Congress. And then around that same time when that the ebook ends at 99 cents, we're going to offer an audiobook. And Tammy and I were just listening to our voice actors not too long ago. And that's a surreal experience for
Oh,
sure.
wow.
I can see
Oh,
Tammy
wow.
smiling right now to hear the payroll version, the voice
I
actor of Tammy Gillenwater.
I think Tammy should read it. I think you should read it, Tammy. It would be perfect. It'd be so authentic.
I don't know. Like, who has that kind of time, first of all, right? To
I
sit in a
know.
studio and record a book. And
Well,
I want to add, I'm going to brown nose more than John because John said there was no hesitation from you when we asked you to write the forward, but there was no hesitation when we were trying to decide who to write it. So,
oh, thank
I
you.
mean, we were totally on the same page because we wanted somebody who is really, really passionate and advocates for the profession.
I appreciate you. I appreciate you. Look, I'm very proud of that, and I'm really proud that you guys chose me to do that. I feel like I call myself the chief payroll champion, but I'm trying my hardest to use my platform to leave this profession better. And one of the things, Tammy, like John, you and I have talked about this. Payroll and HR leaders being business leaders. One of the things you talk about that I like in your book, I think you called it bravery or courage or both of payroll leaders, right? And I think there's a little bit of an undertone of imposter syndrome sometimes for payroll to step out of their comfort zone and have a voice and have an opinion about the business and not just their little world. Talk about that chapter because I think that was a really important chapter in this book, and maybe to some extent was some therapy for you writing this.
Yeah. So it's interesting how that came to be because I was talking with other payroll professionals that we featured in the book. So, Sarah Chasney and I had a very long conversation about imposter syndrome. Then I talked to Danny Schultz and he brought it up too. And I thought, wow, like these are
It's a
people that
thing.
I consider, excellent payroll professionals and they still feel the imposter syndrome. And I know John has heard about it in the HR community as well. So for bravery, I just feel like payroll professionals are never expected to speak up. They're never expected to challenge anything, and they need to find their voice and use it and challenge and ask for better. But it takes a lot to do that. And even I'm still overcoming it a little bit. It took me a long time to get in a place where I would speak up and say what was on my mind. Even with clients, I would like tiptoe around certain things.
Yep.
Um, So I think is really important because nobody else is putting payroll professionals out in the forefront. So we have to put ourselves there.
Agreed. Yeah. Yeah, we're all we got. And I think you're right. We gotta payroll has to lead into the future. They can't be led any longer. And it's
Right.
very gonna be very critical to our future. So
There's
yeah,
also a bit of like start small and do it regularly, right? I mean,
yeah,
it's a muscle. You can't just build yourself up to go, climb a mountain once. You really just have to get used to having confidence in the fact that you have sometimes a unique data set, a unique point of view, something valuable to contribute in a lot of different conversations. And that only comes with pushing yourself again and again.
First off, Tammy was adamant about this chapter, adamant about it. It was, I
yeah,
remember the discussion point we had, it's got to be this. And even when we did that presentation, Pete, that you saw the very first time at New England Payroll Conference, Tammy was adamant about using the word bravery and
yeah.
not
Bravery.
confidence. It was critical to her. I think it's a major coup on her part to encourage that. And here's the thing, and I'd be curious now, Pete, I don't think you're very bashful. I don't see you
Yeah.
being like
No.
super quiet. I think you're more the opposite. Like you're like the bravest lion in the payroll community that there is. My perspective of this is when you do something that when you do it right, your recognition is a quiet Friday afternoon, meaning you don't get a
Yeah.
bunch of bombarded emails, you don't get a bunch of net pay things you need to change and adjust, or whatever the case is, working with your vendor, maybe with your bank, whatever the heck happens because payroll didn't go right. You end up living in that lack of recognition because when you do get
Yeah.
recognized in payroll, what do we get recognized for? It doesn't go right. And as a
Yep.
result,
Agreed.
when it doesn't go right, you then all of a sudden that you're getting negative recognition if that's even a phrase. You're
Right.
it's brought to your attention because you did something not on purpose. It just didn't work out. And that happens all the time for every single payroll professional that's out there. And I think that's why when Tammy came up with that idea to feature it in the book, which what does bravery have to do with payroll? When you think of it from a technical perspective, probably
Yeah.
nothing. But in the spirit of you as a human being and your comfort and your ability to say, I own that mistake and I'm going to make it right.
Yeah.
Or I did that payroll well. It was so good that I didn't get any questions. I'm super proud of that as well, if not even more so because of the fact that it was a non-event.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. Tammy, in the book, you talk a lot about, or a bit about influence and legacy.
Yeah, I started thinking about
Talk a little bit
legacy
about that.
because, as we know, there's a very high percentage of payroll professionals who are very close to retirement. To me, I feel like it's not too late to define your legacy on the profession. It's not too late to make an impact. And I am trying to convince people. I know that you're going to be retired in 2, 3 years, but if you don't feel like you've already made an impact, let's do it.
Yeah, Tammy, I still have leaders that reach out to me. I could show you DMs from just this year of leaders that are kind of giving up hope that there's ever going to be this sort of proactive attitude towards
Yeah.
payroll, right? And giving them the seat at the table, so to speak. And it's even less about that. It's more about like just getting respect. And I see that in my research too. Like, what do you think we're going to have to do to turn the tide? And I think a lot of it is going to have to be payroll walking the talk and sort of leading. But what do we do? Because I feel like we're running out of time. We're running out of talent faster than
Yeah.
we're gaining awareness and gaining support, I guess. So,
What needs to happen is payroll needs to prove their value to their leadership. So,
yeah,
start with some KPIs and metrics and show them this is how we're doing here. Or even if you've made a change, document the impact that that change has had on the business. They also need to start understanding how to speak to their leadership because it's a little different, right?
yep,
Leadership
yep,
doesn't want every minute detail. They just want you to get to the point and tell them what the issue is or, the recommendation. What's the impact of it? What happens if we do nothing?
hmm,
And so I think that it's really important for payroll professionals to understand how to present that information to leadership. And then, it takes a certain amount of, I'll say, assertiveness where you're just going to have to, nobody's going to ask you to show you that data. You need to reach out and say, "Hey, can we schedule 30 minutes so I can show you something?"
yeah.
It's going to be slow going, but I think eventually we'll get there. I feel like we almost have to.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think a lot more companies are coming around to the realization that they can't let payroll limp. and the importance of it is rising. And unfortunately, they're finding out when there's some sort of break or some sort of failure or something they've bought. And we're still reactive. I wish we could get much more proactive and change our paradigm for sure. But
Yeah.
John, do you see us making any progress on the HR side? Do you see HR? Because I keep communicating that we have to integrate together,
Yeah.
not just plugging in technology, but being integrated as a strategic partners to the business, right? I do you see that happening with the leaders that you guys are consulting?
There's more pockets of that for sure in HR than there is in payroll, no doubt about it. There's
Yeah.
there's still the HR professionals that struggle with relegation to personnel or hiring, firing only. I think the
Yeah.
thing that we
Yeah.
try to do in the book, there are elements of some slightly technical payroll activities in the book only because we use the word accurate and timely. It's almost like a drinking game. We were very intentional about them always being accurate and timely. We had to wordsmith that so many times. Pete and Julie have no idea that we want to
Yeah.
have a drinking game. I didn't count it yet, but we could probably have a Roxanne red lights kind of situation if you remember that drinking game from back in the day.
Yeah.
But we're very specific in the book about just think about for a second if you're listening as a payroll professional or for Pete and Julie, especially with your influence and seeing really great payroll functions at the same time seeing incredibly dysfunctional payroll organizations. First off, we have to leverage technology. If we're not using the technology that we have to the optimal level, you're just making your job so much more difficult. We then need to be super strategic about what we do or do not do internally. There are certain elements from a technical skill set or a complexity of your organization that it is better to leverage a partner from an outsourcing perspective, whether it's a small firm like ours or whether it's some large, gigantic firm that I know, Pete, you consult all the time. And then the last thing that we outline in the book is around building a strategic business operating system. Pete, I know you did a fantastic
Yep.
job and have done that with the index that you've created and the influence you have around that, and it's tremendous. And we thought about really writing about that in the book, but we really wanted to create our own framework that says, how
Yeah.
do you look
Good.
at payroll from a strategic perspective as a business professional? And there
Yeah.
were 7 or 8 elements inside it. And the more that I wrote about it, I was like, well, that's was probably why this is hard because it's just not one thing you have to do
No.
well. It's a number of things you
Mhm.
have to strategically think about. And I know some of you are listening to out there and go, all I got to do is get payroll done accurate and timely. I don't have time for all this other fill in the blank word, however you want to describe it. If you want to do payroll like a boss, if we want to create a groundswell to where people see payroll completely different than they did before, because if we do all those things, imagine the reporting or the capabilities you can bring strategic ideas to your leadership about how to drive out costs, how to
Right.
minimize overtime, or hey, we're about to do an acquisition and you are involved in that conversation as opposed to after you buy the company and 6 weeks later you find about it in a press
Yeah.
release and you're like, oh crap, we have to bring 6,000 employees in 6 weeks and they
Yeah.
have their own separate payroll system. Hey, thanks for the heads up, CEO, CFO, and everyone else. I think ultimately we have to create the groundswell. I'm optimistic because that's how I'm wired, but I know there's a level of systemicness to that. And I'm concerned. And to me, Pete and Julie, this is simple as I
Yeah.
have,
Yeah.
and all the work I do around speaking and writing and any sort of influence I try to have is just one person at a time. I'm not going to change
Yeah.
Yeah.
10,000 payroll professionals at once. It's going to be one interaction at a time,
Agreed.
one day at a time. And that's why I believe, Pete, Julie, you'll
Yeah.
attest, Tammy as well. We need as many of us as possible
We
to get
do.
those one people at a time, because eventually you might
Yep.
get there to be able to truly change the profession to be that strategic partner.
Yeah. That was
Yeah.
my goal with the PPCI was to get people to
Yeah.
use it as a megaphone. Just use my platform as a megaphone and say, hey, payroll world, just scream into this thing and we'll amplify it upward. So
What's really hard, and I don't know that any of us have really talked about how to address it, is that payroll is always in firefighting mode.
yeah,
Everybody I know is in firefighting mode,
that's
and
unfortunate.
you can't do other things when you're constantly putting out fires. And so that transition and how to get out of that state, and maybe that means, putting in some extra time to evaluate your processes and make sure they're working right, evaluate your system configuration, because every little thing that you change and you modernize is going to get you one step closer.
Yeah, agreed. Agreed. Well, look, guys, congratulations on this. I'm so excited for you. I know you're going to be at PayCon. You're going to be handing out some books there, I'm sure, signing some books, doing some speaking. But Tammy, wrap this up. what would you say to payroll leaders out there that are, hopefully will buy the book and read it, but somebody that's maybe just sort of lost, maybe a little paralyzed. I've seen that a bit, right? Not sure they can make a change, not sure they can convince their organization of their value, not sure if they should stay at their organization. I've literally had a couple of those conversations this year because there's doubt that the organization will ever mature around what payroll's value is. But what would be your advice to them to do payroll like a boss?
Before I answer that, I do want to say this is for the one person payroll department just as
Yeah.
much as the payroll
Yeah.
leader. And I
Yes.
think they're the ones who are the most lost because they don't feel like they have a lot of support. There's so much knowledge out there, and being with a group of people who can lift you up and give you advice and you can all brainstorm together, right? If you have 10 people who are trying to figure this out, if they work together, they
Yeah.
may come up with a
Yes.
solution. I do think that, and I just did a presentation on this, payroll and HR really have to join together and be a united front. I think it would be much more impactful if they wanted to drive a change. It would be way more impactful for them to do it
Yeah.
together than separately.
Yep.
So that is
100%.
something that I would really love to see. But I think, read the book. You know,
Yes. Read the book.
but
Yes.
when I started following a lot of people on LinkedIn and I started reaching out and meeting to people, and I think I told you before, Pete, that every time I listen to one of these episodes, I'll make a note of who your guest was and I'll go find them on LinkedIn.
Awesome. Awesome.
And I think that just building that bench of knowledge and support is what needs to be done. I know
Yeah.
John's going to say something different, but and they
No,
need to be brave.
no, yeah, the bravery and the confidence and the community you build. I think we mentioned this in the early part of the show. It's the payroll community is incredibly supportive.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of vindication. I wouldn't look at it as competition. We all know how hard the job is, how lonely it is, how again we prefer that very quiet payroll Friday versus any sort of negative recognition. The thing I would say, Pete, specifically to that payroll professional that feels lost, is I would encourage them to take a moment to look at their job just from above, from
Yeah.
10,000 feet, not into the daily grind, as Tammy had suggested, always everything's urgent. You can't make great decisions. You can't change. You're certainly not strategic when you take that approach. And we
Yep.
must
Yep.
take time away, even if it is a weekend, even if it's an early morning, even if it's a walk that you take. I know Tammy's made reference to it many times. These meditations that she had changed her payroll life.
Yeah.
The way that she
Yeah.
saw the job, the way that she created her influence, the way that she went on and built her community. And now she's written about it and will be an author of a book specifically around doing amazingly awesome payroll. I just think sometimes we get so caught up in what is
Yeah.
happening that it feels almost like the tail's wagging the dog. We're letting everything else around us, pissed off executives, employees, timelines, outsourced partners, whatever it is, shake us around versus I got this.
Yeah.
I
I
know
love it.
Tammy Gillenwater. I know Pete Tiliakis. I know Julie. I know Sarah. I know all these people. They've given me these snippets. Now it's my job to build
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
payroll community, build my payroll kingdom the way that I know it needs to be built. And then just systematically like a badass. Like that's the last thing I will say. And we'll end our keynote on this topic is that I don't care what other people think about payroll. I don't care what they say about it, where they relegate it, how unimportant it is.
Yeah.
If you're in this profession, be a badass payroll professional. Be a
Yep.
kick-ass payroll leader in your
I
own
love it.
version, own
Yeah.
form, whatever it means. Like just be that. Because if not, then you're as much of the problem as the people that are out there complaining about payroll being a necessary evil or whatever the case is. And
Yeah.
I get fired up about it because I've seen Tammy's transformation. I knew her 15 years ago. I didn't know deep down that she didn't really value payroll the way that I thought she did, but I saw the transition happen and I've seen a different human being, a
Yeah.
different woman, a different leader than the one she was 5, 6, 7 years ago.
I love it. I love it. Perfectly said, man. I couldn't say it any better. And you're right. I think you gotta lean into this moment. And there's an opportunity now. We're getting some awareness. We're getting better awareness, I should say. We're getting the technology. There really is investment. if there's ever been a golden age, it's now, and now's the time to lean into that. And so, yeah, look, I applaud you. Congrats, Tammy. Congrats, John, and
Thank
and
you.
all the best on getting this thing out there. Look, where can everyone get in touch with you? Obviously, PayCon, right? We'll see you around there. But where can they get the book? Where I know I'll throw your LinkedIn's in here, Willory. What else? What else can we do to share?
PayrollLikeAboss.com is live. We'll
Yeah.
redirect
Oh,
people.
it
And
is?
we're
Yes.
creating. We've had so many things going on.
I
We're
know.
creating a community inside of. So we're creating a Payroll Like a Boss community for thought
Yeah.
leadership and collaboration, similar
Yeah.
to what we did with HR Like a Boss. And I know Tammy and I are getting requests, as I'm sure you all can attest, of speaking engagements at state conferences and payroll community leaders, just to get the word out, to inspire that one person
Yeah.
to truly take ownership of their job, find a way to love it again, and be a kick-ass payroll professional. That's what we're all about. But yeah, you can find us Willory.com. You can find us on LinkedIn. You can go to Payroll. You can Google Payroll Like a Boss, or you can go onto Amazon or any other major book retailer and buy the ebook, or you can buy the paperback.
I love it. I love it. Congratulations.
Yeah. Yeah.
Man, just I hope you come back with an update. I'm sure there'll be maybe some updates after, as always, a second edition, third edition. So come back when that happens, and we'll see you. We'll see you around PayCon. And Tammy, congrats. Seriously, I'm really proud of you. So
Thank
appreciate
you.
you guys. Good seeing everyone. We'll be back soon.